feel really honoured to do this for Mike. So this is the story of Mike and Ju. Ju first saw Mike in the first year at John Mason's school at Recorder Club. She went home and told her mother that she had met this disgusting boy who played his recorder with his nose and was asked to leave by Mrs. Wade. They met again in lower sixth a couple of months after this photo was taken. I'm in the front there somewhere, just being very naughty, as usual. Ending up in the same form as neither of them had bothered to go in and pre-register. They became Christians in the first year of university when Mike was in Southampton and Ju was in London. I was down in Southampton as well, about the same time, I think. In 1990, they got married before Mike finished his degree and spent their first year of marriage having a complete blast in married halls, surrounded by fellow Christians. Can I have my water, please, Danny? Because there's all a little bit there. Thank you. They moved to Stony Stratford and became involved in youth, introducing such activities as karaoke. Yay. The boys were born and things changed dramatically. All three had illnesses of differing severity, with Dan coming close to death on several occasions, and Ben forgetting to breathe for the first 15 months of his life. Another house move and a bad church experience led to many years without Jesus in their lives. Things with the boys were tough, so eventually they returned to Abingdon as nobody with any sense would babysit them. In 2011, they had a traumatic family event, and even though Mike was far away from God, he had his hand on events and stopped it getting too bad. Ju felt compelled to buy Mike a Bible, although she continued to seek a new religion and looked at everything from pantheism to Catholicism. I managed to say those words today, that's good. A neighbour asked Mike to go to Alpha, and although he couldn't face church, Alpha was great. He had a lot of laughs and fantastic table leaders. Alpha brought Mike back to church. He doesn't think he could have got back any other way. Of course, the boys now had a golden opportunity to take the mick out of Mike and set out to fill the house with tacky Jesus merchandise, including a cheeses grater, grow your own cheese, solar dashboard dancing Jesus, and an inflatable Jesus until Ju put an embargo on it. Mike didn't let them get him down and began a campaign of prayer, randomly accosting friends, second-hand car dealers, kayaking club members and shop staff, and praying for healing. Mike began to seriously look at healing and trained to do healing on the streets and street pastoring. He started leading the Christ Church ministry team. Everything pointed towards him being involved in healing in a big way. He bought loads of books and actually read them. Wow. Christmas 2016, Mike began to have difficulty swallowing his food. There was a lot of coughing, chugging of water, and admonishments to slow down and chew properly. Trips to the pub for a beer led to accusations from Ju that he was fibbing and was actually completely hammered. He laughed easily and at times inappropriately, but that was nothing new. I know that one. On their way to a short break, Mike quietly said, "Sometimes I have trouble getting my words out." Ju answered that it was probably the stress of having a grandson and work, although in her heart she already knew what it was from her work as community nurse clinical educator. They visited Mike's GP, who suggested referring him to ENT, but Ju insisted on a neurology opinion. In July, just before Mike flew to Spain to do some mission work, he got the diagnosis. motor neuron disease, or MND, or if you're American, ALS. What's ALS? Okay. Does anyone know what ALS stands for? Oh, it's just different letters. I won't repeat that, okay. Oh my goodness. I prefer MND, that's good. Right, motor neuron disease is a progressive neurological condition that attacks the motor neurons or nerves in the brain and spinal cord. This means messages gradually stop reaching the muscles, which leads to weakness and wasting. MND can affect how you walk, talk, eat, drink, and breathe. Mike's diagnosis is bulbar onset, so it begins at the top of the spine, affecting swallowing and speech first, before moving on to the arms and finally lungs. Life expectancy is just 2 years from the onset of symptoms. Ju had been away from Christchurch for 16 years while she'd been on a spiritual quest through the various ologies and faiths. But now Mike wasn't safe around cake. She knew he couldn't go to church on his own anymore. So Ju decided to go with him and fake it to make him happy. But God had other plans, and as soon as she walked through the doors, Ju felt as though she had come home. All her doubts evaporated, and the conviction she craved for so many years settled on her heart. They decided they were going to Bethel, and between them planned a trip to California in little under 6 weeks. It was such a massive encouragement, and something Mike had wanted to do for a very long time. They began a tour of healing rooms, which planted the seed to start one here in Abingdon. There are none in the local area currently. They both felt God telling them this was what they had to do. In August, at church began a prayer group for Mike's healing, meeting every other Friday for worship, prayer, and Bible study. A byproduct of this was that Ju's shorter leg grew out, and all the pain in my hip stopped completely. After a few days of tripping up as my legs were now the same length, I accepted that I had received my own minor miracle. But where was Mike's healing? That was Ju talking, wasn't it? I've just figured that one out. Fine, it takes time for my brain to catch up. They are going through the grieving process, but through it all, they have a deep and grounded joy in life, and an unshakable faith, which has surprised them. They're doing much better than they thought they would. Something like this forces you to work things through. Things you thought you understood, you look at again. Just a slurp of water, sorry. Mike decided to make a video to share his news so that everyone at work and at church knew his story and that he was happy to talk. It was the hardest thing he had done in a long time. There followed a few weeks of extended coffee breaks and surprisingly a lot of laughter. Mike launched his blog, Plan A, all the way, which was much more fun than they had imagined it would be. Mike would love it if you would follow him at planablog.blog. Progress of the illness feels slow for Mike. At times, apart from the fatigue, he doesn't feel ill. For Ju, it's been a little harder. And the grieving process happens again in a shortened form for each loss. Eating out, walking into town, buying a riser recliner chair, and stopping driving, all markers of his deterioration. Compared to cancer, where the treatment is awful, MND care is all about making you comfortable and taking care of you. There is no medical cure. They have been humbled by all the love and support they have received. Does God heal? That suddenly works. I don't think it's been working all the time. Yes, not all of the time, but they know he does. They don't know why it doesn't happen every time, but walk in faith and in the belief that Jesus has already done the work. It's just a matter of time until they see it. And while they wait, they're going to have as much fun as possible. That's it.
I've got much voice. But it does make you think through your faith. Just as Martin said, you have perfect faith. But when you get struck down with something, it tests the faith. And you ask all sorts of questions. Does God put this MND on me? And we work through that. And you find at the end, God is loving. And He definitely keep me going through all this. And surprised even me and Julia at times. So, yeah, sorry I couldn't do the speaking. But voice is rubbish. They give me a little gadget soon, but that's quite a big step. It sounds a bit like me, rather than Professor Hawkins. Thanks for listening.